All right. Good afternoon. I'll go ahead and give you an injury update here. All right, so Dawson Knox, we're going to open up his practice window starting today, as well as Kyer Elam, Dane Jackson, and I should mention your follow-up question to those two is, are they going to play? We're going to take it one day at a time with both of those guys. Dane Jackson cleared concussion protocol. Taylor Rapp had the neck. He'll return to practice full today. And then Von Miller is on a veteran rest day today, really getting him back to his routine that we worked at together last year. Trying to replicate that now that we have moved ahead a little bit in terms of days on the calendar. So, and this was planned previous to obviously the latest happenings here. So they are separate situations altogether. So with that, I'll turn it over to you with your questions.
You did say Taylor Rapp is full coach.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then Von will practice full tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you give us your thoughts on Brandon spoke to it, can you give us your thoughts on the bond situation?
Yeah, I know Brandon addressed it, and that's where we're at. So I don't see a need to address it after it's already been addressed.
Sean, how do you handle it in the locker room, given the nature of the charges? This is the third time he's been accused of something in this realm.
Yeah, I respect where you're coming from, Tim. Again, it's been addressed. Brandon spoke on it. I'm focused on this practice right now.
Sean, I asked Brandon, regardless of the off-the-field incident, the way he has played this year, he's not provided much help to defense. Should it be a consideration to maybe go with somebody else with these 5 games that you have to win?
Well, I think like anything else, you try and evaluate every week, every day at practice, and we'll do that today and as well as tomorrow. You know, some of what we're doing is to continue to try and get him where he was a year ago, and that's why I mentioned what I mentioned. That process took place last week as a staff. We sat down and said, hey, what else can we do to continue to try and move this thing? And so that's the plan that was put together by our medical staff.
Chiefs, when you talk about their offense, which has not been the same level that we're used to seeing, what have you seen that might be beneficial this weekend?
No, well, the world that you guys live in, I mean, this is a dynamic offense. Andy Reid, whenever you have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey, and then you add 10 back there and in the running back core that they have, it's a dynamic offense. So we have to prepare that way.
Sean, with the silence in here and the questions, I think that is pretty reflective of not really being sure what to ask, maybe being a little stunned that you don't have anything more to say about one of your highest paid players facing these allegations and how you're handling this as somebody who has his hand on the culture here and monitors it so closely. I'm sure you have something in addition to what Brandon King would say regarding how you personally are handling this in your locker room.
Yeah, listen, Brandon and I have already spoken, Tim. Again, I respect your question. We've spoke. He's addressed it with you guys. I think that's more than fair, and that's where we're at. I am focused on going to practice in 15 minutes and coaching the football team, and that's where we're at.
How have you handled it over the last 9 days?
I've been involved. I think you're aware of my involvement with things like this. So my focus right now is going out there to practice and improving our football team.
With respect to you, every time that you talk, most times you talk about a player, their fit and culture, you mention their ability to be a family man, and the allegations here against them are, hard to read. They're hard do you say to the fan base who supports him and you, the team, around this situation?
Yeah, listen, I will say that it's a very serious situation. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It is very serious, and something that we take very seriously. I take very seriously. Beyond that, again, we've discussed that internally since the time it happened, or the reports that came out, and so beyond that, I'm not going to address it right now. Brandon addressed it. We obviously met on it. We've had great communication about it and collaboration, and it is a very, very serious situation and something we don't take lightly at all. All right? All right. You good?
I guess just looking forward, just at this point of the season with 5 games left and coming, have you been able to put aside just the frustrations of how that last game ended 2 weeks ago, and how do you now focus on what you have left to do with these 5 games, knowing that you need some help but still have a chance to make the play?
Yeah, John, that's really where we are. That's really where my focus is, and our focus needs to be is on today and us controlling the things that we can control and getting better as a football team, and that's our intent today.
Is there, you can't draw, how much can you draw parallels from when you were 7 and 6, or was it just 2 different things?
Well, I think anything's experience, right? So you can learn from experience. That said, every season's different, and every team is different and takes on its own identity, if you will, and that's what I'm looking for from our team moving forward. Here is the identity of this team.
And finally, is there a level of encouragement to see perhaps at least on offense that this team has potentially turned the corner in performing to expectations as you've done it? There's still some things to clean up on defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, I mean, you look at the big picture over the last 2 weeks. There's been good football being played. I mean, offensively, as you mentioned, the meter, the scale has moved in a good direction. Does that mean we're where we need to be? No, not whatsoever. Same thing, special teams and defensively. So, defensively, I thought we did a good job taking the ball away in the last 2 games and setting up the offense, which is a big part of playing team ball. So, and in that first half was really, really high level. Second half wasn't good enough. And so those are the things we're working on improving. And you're always trying to improve your football team. I think just week to week, it'll evolve. It'll take on his, as you mentioned, his fingerprint, as well as the overall staff and the offense, and including Josh. So I like what I'm seeing, and we'll continue to take it, one day at a time here.
Sean, I know the bye week is often self-scout, tendencies, things like that, you can tweak. How does that change with an OC who's only been in there for 2 weeks? Because obviously what you did and you guys did on offense is going to be different than what your tendencies might be with him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think it's, easier to manage than one would think, just in terms of, you have 2 weeks, defensive coordinators have 2 weeks of Joe out there in terms of what he's put out there in terms of his tendencies. And so sometimes that can be an advantage, sometimes it can be a disadvantage. It's just a matter of how you look at it.
Sean, you've mentioned in the past how everything is still on front with the goals making the postseason. Is there a message at all inside the locker room that it's almost a playoff game every week now?
Well, that's where our focus is, right? Every week when you start your season, it's every week's the same importance in terms of the size of the game. No different this week in terms of we're going against a heck of an opponent at their place, Super Bowl champs, and it's going to be a great challenge. We're going to have to play for a whole game. We're going to have to play really well and sustain our level of play for 4 quarters or however long it goes.
Is the sense of urgency even higher now?
My hope was that it was high in week 1, really. Moving forward, You know, it definitely has to be where it needs to be in order for us to go in and get a win in Kansas City.
What about this Chiefs defense has improved? It seems like they're taking a big jump, even though it's largely the same personnel they had the season before.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Spags does a really good job. I worked with him for a number of years. Kind of came up under him in terms of the defensive backs there for some time in Philadelphia, and he's a great coach. He's got a great staff with him, and they've got great players, you know, that make big time plays. Starting with Chris Jones, so he's a big time difference maker.
Sean, are there any considerations to points of variations for off the field things that go into your game day decisions as to whether punters have to do is that a completely
Well, I'd start by saying those are separate to start, and I think that's important that they stay there. But every situation is a little bit different. Good. All right. Thanks, guys.